Let me see. Packers. Packers Buccaneers. We kind of have. We have Sammy Watkins out, which is kind of huge, but that just means more playing time for the rookies probably. Christian Watson, having a hamstring is kind of bad because he's the biggest deep threat that the we have on the Packers with his speed and his height and that sort of thing. Bakhtiari, still having somewhat of a knee injury. I kind of expect him to not play. I think it's one of those that you're going up against the Bucks. It's a big game. There's Bakhtiari can definitely like handle the pressure, but if he's playing, that means he's having to go up against Shaq Barrett, who very strong and a very skilled rusher. And the best rusher on the Buccaneers. So I really think that they're probably not going to play Bakhtiari tomorrow, but. Looking at the rest of these, I don't know what the illness is that Cobb has, but if he's not playing, then you're talking about guys like Romeo Dobbs. Watson, I'm assuming, will play. You're talking about Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson, and just a very, very honestly battered, and then Alan Lazard playing a very battered, I guess, wide receiver core, even though, you could argue that if Dobbs and Watson, make strides, that they would definitely be the starters on offense over guys like Watkins and Cobb, who are definitely more veteran and more used to playing, I guess, in big games and that sort of thing. But eventually you're going to want Watson and Dobbs, being able to play at a high level. But to me, this game, looking at it, it's going to come down to probably the Packers' run game. They're going to try, not to say that the Buccaneers have an insane pass rush or anything, but I do think that the Buccaneers, they do very well against, they do have a very good, a pretty good pass rush. Obviously, Mike Evans suspended. I guess they are saying Godwin is out. Julio Jones is banged up. So it's like the only guys that, play on this team, regularly, a part of the receiving corps is Cameron Brate, the tight end. I guess I guess don't know too much about, who's all gonna get to play because like they're so front loaded. Scotty Miller, had a heyday against the Packers a couple years ago when we played in the playoffs, burning Kevin King twice that game. But Akeem Hicks being out, I guess, is huge. I didn't realize that he was gonna be out this game. Yeah, it's really bad for them. Godwin, I guess, is officially out. So it's like the three big names for the Buccaneers being out is Akeem Hicks, Godwin, and then Mike Evans. Who got suspended because he obviously, got in a fight with Lattimore and punched him and shoved him. So this game, the Buccaneers, still have Tom Brady. They still have Leonard Fournette, who's, apparently had a hamstring injury. But they have, a very, very good defense, in my opinion. And it's one of those things that it's like their linebacker core is still very, very good. Not to say that Green Bay's linebacker core isn't, it couldn't be as good if Quay Walker, starts to learn and get better, and that sort of thing. The Packers are, I guess, sixth in rushing. Aaron Jones looks very revitalized this year, very speedy. Has been able to elude a lot of tackles as well. This is obviously the first game that the two teams have had since the championship game. Rodgers not having to throw too much this year. I think it has to do, obviously, with the loss of Devontae Adams. But still completing at a very high completion percentage. And obviously, I mean, the one pick that he threw in week one was a force where Harrison Smith picked him off. But otherwise, I think that with, how good Aaron Jones is running, and I mean, A.J. Dillon hasn't been doing as well, but, I think they can really wear defenses down with the run game, and they just need to, be able to lean on Jones, who has been playing very, very well this year so far. Watkins being out, I guess, is kind of huge. He's had the most, receptions alongside Aaron Jones. So not a lot of, not a lot of, yards elsewhere for Rodgers, but he has been distributing the ball a lot to a lot of different guys, which I personally like because, I mean, the more catches and the more experience that the young guys can get, the better that they'll be. And I mean, Green Bay is still operating at a very high third down efficiency this year, And then I guess, but both teams, like I said, on defense, being very good on third down. And I mean, overall, I think that the Bucs, they have a pretty good defense, but they have some, major injuries, because Akeem Hicks, I mean, definitely has the experience coming from the Bears to the Buccaneers, and he has the experience against Aaron Rodgers, having played against him early in his career. And I mean, even the spread here is saying, very, very close, because I mean, a lot of star-studded players missing, and I mean, this is one of those games that I feel like it could get away from either team, depending on who gets momentum first and who is able to feed off of that momentum. But overall, I think, gosh, and I'm trying to think of who I want to decide, who I want to predict, because I'd like to be able to just say the Packers, but I think it being at the Buccaneers gives them a little bit of an edge. But I honestly do think that I am going to have to say the Packers, because the last time that they played, Leonard Fournette was definitely, running over the Packers. But the Packers have kind of addressed their D-line a little bit, as well as their linebackers. And I think the pass rush for the Packers, hasn't been great at this point in the season, but they're ready to kind of have a heyday, I think, and what a better time to do it than against a team that, is missing one of their tackles. They're missing one of their tackles. Let me see. I guess Tristan Wirfs, is still oh my gosh, where am I looking? I guess Tristan Wirfs is now fully healthy, so that's a challenge, for any pass rush, because he's such a good young tackle as well. And Shaq Mason is definitely not one to scoff at on their line. But if one of their, tackles is out, and they have to sub in one of these people that hasn't gotten much playing time, then I would definitely say that I think, the defense of the Packers can definitely kind of lead the charge this game. And I think the last time that they did play in the championship game, I'm pretty sure Jair did pick Tom Brady, a couple times. And I think that they're just ready, to start playing to their potential. Because, like, last week after, the Bears seemingly marched down the field, the defense really tightened it up and really started to look like the defense that they need to be in order to limit teams with the amount of yards they get and everything else. So I am actually going to pick the Packers to win this game. I mean, and especially after the performance last week, because I think that, the last week they showed a lot of good things that they can build off of. So I'm going to pick Packers by 3, with optimism.